Hey, my magicals. I hope that you are good. So, I don't know how many of these kinds of videos I'm going to be doing, but what I wanted to do is I'm not going to make these energy updates anymore. I feel like I need to get back to doing like old style energy updates about what's actually going on, and then splitting these into different categories. But this is something that is urgently needing to go out. Okay, so I'm going to probably create a little playlist in the little dinghy below, right? Don't you love my technical terms, the dinghy? And it'll be like healing techniques, for example. Like I think this one's going to be a healing technique, and it's quite a vital one at the moment. I'll do an energy update in a couple of days. But I did want to get this one out. I actually wanted to try and get it out yesterday, but I had, there was some unexpected visitor activity in the afternoon. Right, so also just excuse the layout. I know I'm sitting in a corner, but my baby boy is outside on the veranda with his bestie, and so the door's open. So they have access to mom/Auntie Mara. Right, okay, guys. So I do want to say this first before I go into this video. Pluto is out of retrograde. It went in on the 4th of May and came out on Monday. Right, so we've got one less planet in retrograde at the moment. But what this means now is that all of that deep diving that we've done mentally and emotionally and energetically now needs to play out in real time. So now we actually have to take the action around it. We need to be working on what we need to be doing in the 3D. Okay, so literally putting our healing into action. Okay, that's important to note for what I'm about to say. I've had quite a few clients come to me, and even if they've had different kinds of readings that have not been like childhood specific, or have come for one reading and an issue has come up in another area and it relates to like an old wounding, a lot of it has been around childhood issues that we have left unresolved. Now, this makes sense given Pluto, because Pluto is that deep diving. The childhood woundings that we receive are normally the ones that are really the hardest for us to heal, the ones we avoid most because they're going to take work and they're going to take energy and it's going to be raw and hard. So having said that, I was chatting to a client and she said, I don't know how to heal my inner child. And, I know that journaling helps for a lot of people, but for a lot of people, it doesn't. I don't find that journaling helps me physically heal something. I think it can help me get clarity on stuff. It can help me give gratitude for stuff. It can help me with all of those things. But I don't feel personally that I'm able to heal with a journal. Okay. And when I say heal, it might be a small aspect of healing that can come through that journaling. It is cathartic, right? I'm big onto journaling. So I'm not saying that it's not useful or helpful. But what I'm saying is that for me, when I'm doing the deep work, like the inner child work and that core wounding of abandonment work, I can journal around it and get clarity on what's come up. But the actual work has to come from me. And it becomes like an internal thing. Okay. I think I've said to you in one of the other videos that I often will run scenes in my head that will be a negative or triggering and all of that, and then I know what areas still need to be resolved in my space around certain topics, right? Now, what I'm going to say to you is, if you have issues around your childhood that need to be resolved and you really aren't sure how to do this, I have found that the most efficient, okay, but also the least traumatizing way to do this is to actually in your mind create a scenario where you take yourself back to a scene, okay, that you remember. Let's just take the remembrance first. Okay, I'll deal with for those of you who don't remember later. But if you remember something that's traumatized you in your past, so the way someone has spoken to you, or somebody said something to you, or you can go back to different times in your life where your mom or your dad has abandoned you, or you felt abandoned by them. Let me rephrase it, either or, right? Where they physically either have abandoned you or you have felt abandoned by them. Both are just as valid to work around, let's be clear. What you're needing to do is actually create a little healing scenario for yourself. So, for example, what I do, something came up around my food again, 'cause it seems to be a never-ending story, and I needed to talk to the little girl, the little Mara, who had been abandoned energetically in utero and had come into this world knowing that she had been abandoned by her biological mother and needed to find a way to not only nurture herself but also nourish herself. And so with that, I turned to food. So I would not breastfeed at all from her. I was adamant that I wasn't going to. I used to scream blue murder, and I went automatically onto a bottle and holding the bottle and having the bottle, and that would not only bring me nourishment that I needed, but it would also nurture me. Now, here's the thing around that. In later life, when my bottle was gone, I still had one or two things like my blanket that I used to carry around that was my safety blanket. But I had a bottle until I was 5 years old. Okay, I wouldn't let go of that thing. And the only way I was made to let go of it was because I was going to school. And I think that speaks to the depth of nurturing that I needed, that I felt that I lacked. And so I had to, and I still have more work to do around this, had to have conversations around the fact that I was surrounded by other people that were there to do that for me, even if my biological mother couldn't. And I needed to really look at that situation, go into it, and have the conversations with my little girl. So I literally, the way I do this, I'm not telling you that story for, oh, woe is me, right? I'm telling you the story because I'm contextualizing it for you. So when I give you the example, you understand how this works. So what I did was I then went and I sat quietly, and in my mind I took myself back to the memories that I did have of that little girl walking around with her blanket and her bottle, and I would stop and I would talk to her. Okay, and you have to do this repeatedly. Understand? This is not a one-hit wonder, right? If this was a one-hit wonder, I'm telling you, I'd sell it as a session for like 500K and I'd be a millionaire. It's not a one-hit wonder. We've got to put the work in. We've got to keep going back, right? And sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Understanding that you are dealing with the less evolved version of you, the younger version of yourself, right? And so I went back and I would spend time with this little girl. And I've done it a couple of times. I've still got more work to do around this. It's not done. But I literally had to go back and have the conversations. You are loved. You are nurtured. She's not the only one in this world that is nurturing you and loving you. She is not the only way that you can find care and compassion and love and affection. And as I started having these little conversations with her, but understanding that the younger I went, you have to kind of adapt your vocabulary. So if you're talking to kids, I would, in my imagination, go back and go, do you need big cuddles today? Is it like a big cuddles day? And little me would go, it's a big cuddles day. And then I would hold her and cuddle her because that's what she needed today. When she needed to say something, I would say to her, is it a big cuddles day or is it a talking day? Bearing in mind, I'm dealing with a toddler now. I'm looking at the 2 to 3-year-old version of myself. And I did start talking young. My foster mom always says to me, you started young and you never stopped. The accuracy, right? How to know your kids 101. And she's I said to my little me, and she said, the little one said to me, "It's talking today." And I said to her, "Tell me what you are feeling. Tell me what you need to say." And one of the things growing up is that there was a struggle between my foster mom and my biological mom. They were kind of at war quite a lot, and I kind of felt like I was lost. It was a war of egos and not really so much about me. And when that happened, my foster dad would step in and go, "Stop doing this. You're going to damage this child." Um, but having said that, I go back and I have those conversations, or I have those cuddle sessions, whatever it is that your inner child requires. And when they say what they say to you in that scenario, because remember, you're intending to do the healing around whatever it is that you want to heal. When they tell you that, then you respond appropriately in a way to rewrite the story, in a way to reprogram yourself. Okay, it's not rocket science. It's quite a simple process. It just takes time and energy. And some people will have much quicker journeys with this. Their younger selves will pick up on it earlier. Maybe you are something happened when you were 10 or 12. Maybe your dad or your mom left when you were 10. 10-year-olds are going to certainly be a lot easier to deal with than toddlers, right? But I'm trying to heal a wound that started in utero. So slightly more tricky, not going to lie. But this technique is really, really, really an easy one, and it doesn't create massive trauma around the healing. Okay, it's done gently because I also think it's done over a period of time. So it gives us the space to process on an internal level, and at a deep core level, the wound actually healing within our inner child. And the one session I went into with her, because I'm adamant that I'm healing this now, I've had enough. And the one session I went in with her, she just wanted to play. And for me, I just had to smile because I used to do this as a kid. I used to make mud pies and weed salads. And she wanted to make mud pies and weed salads, and that's what we did. We made mud pies and weed salads that day because those sessions are not wasted. Those moments are not wasted. They are forging a relationship and a bond of trust, right? So when you have to say the hard stuff or do the hard stuff later on, your inner child has formed that bond and they are prepared to trust you. Okay, so take some time, be in a space where you're not going to be disturbed, right? If you want to do a little meditation beforehand, that's fine. Set your intention. You go in, create a scenario. If you can take yourself back to a memory, and work around that and try and change the energy of that memory. And what I'm going to say to you is, don't stop with that memory until you feel like that area has been resolved. Don't just move on to another section and go, okay, yeah, that's done, that's fine. I've been there twice, that's more than enough. That's not how this works. There's no time frame. Remember, healing is linear. There's no time frame on it. Some things will go, the big things that you think are going to take so long to do, it might just be one epiphany, bam, and it's done. Something so trivial might take a whole lot longer to conquer. Don't set time frames and don't set massive expectations. Just go with the flow on this. Okay? But once you do that, you'll know that it's time to move on. It's that feeling of this feels okay. This doesn't feel, and you start shifting within yourself. Right? I certainly have felt the shift in myself already. I'm nowhere near done. But I'm starting to feel the shift in terms of the nurturing around nurturing myself in different ways. Okay. Once you've done that, you can then move on to the next thing. If you have more stuff to work around that and it requires your inner child, then you can carry on doing that and go back into different memories and heal different aspects. Don't take too many memories on. Don't do too much all at the same time. Just tackle one thing at a time and do it well, guys. This is your healing. This is your healing, right? You'll do your training at the gym well. You'll plan your diet well. This healing needs to be planned and done really well too. Okay, it is vitally important that you plan it and you do it well, right? If you do not have a memory as such that you can go back to, but you know that there's a wounding around a certain issue, like feeling like someone's abandoned you, right? So it plays out in your relationships or your friendships or whichever way we go with that. There are a couple of things you can do here. The first thing is you can create a scenario where you are sorry, inviting your inner child into that space, right? So almost taking her for like a play date and having the conversations, doing the things, and then playing out the scenario exactly like the way I've suggested the first time round, but you've created the scenario and you've created the play date. I would actually call them play dates, to work through that. The other thing is, if you really are wanting to work with memories, try and feel into the energy of your emotion. So, for example, if it's abandonment, right? Look at what triggers you now around abandonment, and then try for a little bit just to think back to moments in your past when you felt like that as a kid. And 9 times out of 10, if you really are focused, and I don't mean like hyper focused, like all day, every day, but if you quiet your mind and you just ask for assistance from your team, right? Get your team involved, ask for assistance from your team, get clear on what you're wanting, set your intention. Generally, your energy goes that way, if you're meant to know it at that time and if it's ready for you to heal. Okay, I find that we normally only are temporarily deprived of information if we're not ready for it yet at the stage of the healing that we're at. Okay, so also just don't panic too much around that. I'd say just take a deep breath and work your way through it. And then again, when you get to a space, the scenario, create the scenario or be in the scenario and work it out as you want to and need it to go. Okay. The reason I'm teaching you this technique is because Pluto has required us to dive really deep. So all this old stuff, this big stuff that's coming out, a lot of it is going to be around childhood stuff, guys. And you know what? It doesn't just have to be childhood stuff that you want to heal. You can go back to your teenage years. You can go back to your 20-year-old self. You can, you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I want to go back to my youth and go put that bloody chocolate down or go to the gym or whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, make sure that you're going back to places that you need to do. Do not take on too much healing. Okay, just because it's a gentle way to do it doesn't mean that it's not powerful and that it's not going to shift things for you. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with too much. Okay, it is really important for you to understand at this point. Okay, so I hope that this helps. Oh, just FYI, if you do know past life stuff, you can actually do the same thing with past life stuff. That's actually how I developed this technique for myself. I found out that in a past life, I kept on rushing through things to try and get money together to save my daughter who was dying. And in this life, it plays out that I rush through tasks instead of doing them slowly and strategically. And when I was healing that, I actually sat down and did like a little meditational scenario. And I was a clockmaker in Germany. And I think it was like the 15 or 1600s or something like, I don't know. It was around about that time, I think. And I like went back and I made friends with the clockmaker who was me. And he was a little bit untrusting. And so I'd sit and have tea with him. I'd pretend to be like a potential client or interested in clocks and all of that. And I'd go into a shop and we'd have a cup of tea together and like sit down and talk. And do you know what I mean? And I finally got him to understand that at some point, after quite a long time of going back, that his daughter wasn't necessarily meant to be saved, and that he maybe needed to just, rather than try and rush through work, enjoy the moments with her. And I finally got that through to him, and I no longer rush through stuff anymore. I do it at my own pace, sometimes a little bit too chilled, but it was able to heal that energy within me that was from a past life. That's how I all stumbled upon this. So if you do know stuff from past lives that you can then go back and look at, then this will work perfectly for that as well. Okay. But again, don't take on too much, guys. Okay. It's 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 a very powerful way to shift energy. And like I said to you, it's really simple. It is very, very simple, but it's also it's just not that traumatizing. And I think we've all been through a lot this year, and I think the healing still needs to happen in order for us to get to our like new beginning next year for the one cycle. So I think this is a beautiful way of doing it without overextending ourselves and overwhelming ourselves, because shit has been real this whole year. And I think it's a really cool way to just get ourselves fine-tuned, clear out old stuff, because remember that we clear out old energy and new energy moves in for us. And it's the stuff that we're aligning with now as the evolved versions of ourselves. So I am sending you so much love. I hope that this helps on some level for you guys. Sending big loves. And I will be doing another video to this week. But obviously you guys will get all the notifications as to where and what and how. So love you all madly. I hope that you guys have a magnificent day. And I'm sending you so much love. Big loves.